and organize political and human rights activities. WhatsApp is considered one of the most popular applications amongst the protesters and activists. This workshop highlights the features of this application and how to use it to mobilize solidarity and organize these activities. It will also address the steps necessary to ensure the security of the application users. We are joined now by Helen Charles, Monashteya, and Omar Nazal.
يا هلا ميت هلا الضيوف والمعازيم الكرام يا ميت هلا حطاط وعقل ختياني وشباب شباب وصبايا يا هلا.
Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon. It depends where you are. This is Munashtaye. I'm the advocacy advisor at Hamla, the Arab Center for the Advancement of Social Media. And I'm here today to replace my colleague Noor, who was supposed to facilitate this session, but unfortunately she got like an urgent thing and she won't be able to join us. So I'm here to facilitate this workshop and to speak more with my brilliant guests about WhatsApp for mobilizing and organizing. I'm here with two great speakers. We have Helen. She is WhatsApp Public Policy Director for the EMEA, and Omar Nazal from the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate. Hi Helen, hi Omar.
Hello, really nice to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
How are you?
Hi.
Thank you.
Just before we start, to let everyone know, Omar will be speaking in Arabic and Helen will be speaking in English. So if you want to hear the Arabic translation, then my colleagues will provide you with a translation chat. And also, if you want to hear the Arabic translation for Helen's conversation, you should also use the other link. So our team will provide you now with the links. So just to start with, Facebook tools like Facebook, different platforms, and specifically WhatsApp have been used for a long time now for organizing and mobilizing as messaging app. We all know, or we all hear about groups or movements, progressive movements who have been utilizing WhatsApp as an organizing tool, either for their internal communication to communicate between each other, like the community members or the team members themselves, or to network with other people. Therefore, WhatsApp, like they are developing their tools most of the time. Sometimes they have like the one to all like messages, which is like only the senders or the admins, they can send the messages, but it can't be two ways. And sometimes they have the two ways interactive features. And they have also other kind of things. While we have, on the other hand, other obstacles and challenges that activists, journalists, and organizers around the world are facing when they are using WhatsApp. Therefore, we are here today to speak about like WhatsApp features and how we can utilize it for a good, for the social good. But also, from the other hand, Omar will tell us more about the challenges that journalists and organizers are facing when they are using this tool. Before we start, just to let you know about the structure of this session, we'll start with Helen. She will give us like a presentation for 10 minutes, and then we will hear from Omar, who will tell us more about the challenges and what he thinks as a Palestinian journalist syndicate about WhatsApp. And after that, we will have like interactive questions. So it's a freestyle session. Please, if you hear us and you have like any question about using WhatsApp for mobilizing and organizing, feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, and our colleagues will forward those questions to us so we can like take them and discuss them with our great speakers. Now, I'm stepping back and giving the floor for you, Helen, to start your presentation. Please go ahead.
That's great, Mona. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me here today. I'm just going to try and pull up my slides. So if you will give me a moment here to do so, I will be able to talk you through our presentation. while I'm doing that, as Mona said, I'm the Director of Public Policy for WhatsApp in Europe, the Middle East and Africa. I am replacing one of my colleagues, Akuya, who was meant to join today, and very sadly she was unable to do so. So I do apologise there. I'm afraid I'm having some issues pulling up my slides. I wonder if, Mona, that's something that you might be able to do on your end.
I can do that, but I think there is a sharing button down in your screen. I think you can use that. Ibrahim,
I think there's a problem with my permissions. So
Ibrahim, can you hear us? So our tech support coordinator, okay, he's gonna help us. Ibrahim, we can share the slides, so if you can just help Helen to share her slides, we would highly appreciate that.
That would be great. Thank you. While we're doing that, why don't I start just talking through a few of the WhatsApp products and principles, and hopefully we can get the slides up one way or another in the meantime. So I just thought it would be helpful today to talk through a few things. So firstly, WhatsApp product and principles. So a bit about the foundational ideas around the product. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about some new features that we've already launched in the product, which enhance privacy. And then I'll conclude with a bit more detail about a new feature that we're launching called Communities. Now, this is something that is coming towards the end of the year, which we think will help people organise, and I thought was highly relevant for today's session on digital mobilisation and organisation. So just in terms of the starting piece around the product and principles. So WhatsApp was founded in 2009 by Jan Korm, and he grew up in Ukraine, and he set out alongside Brian Acton to create a space for private conversations where you could be confident that no one was reading or listening to the message you were sending. And that principle is still sort of the product still primarily serves that purpose today.
Helen, just, I don't want to interrupt you, but our technical support coordinator, he said he can do that. You only can do that. It's from the bottom down in your screen. So please try again if you want to use the slides.
I will try again.
Okay, please.
I think there's a permissions problem, unfortunately, because it's the platform is telling me that I don't have permissions to share Google Slides on the platform. So that's where this problem has arisen. So okay. I think if it's all the same, given that I'm here, I might just press on with what I want to say, and apologies that I wasn't able to share that material, because I do think it would have been helpful, but let's keep going. So WhatsApp has three main product principles. It's simple, it's reliable, and it's private. So simple, we maintain an app that we want everyone to be able to use, and that means keeping it simple with a limited feature set. And that then hinges on the second principle of reliability. We want the app to work when every person needs it most. And that simplicity plays into the ability for the app to work even in areas where there's very poor connections, there's very limited connectivity, very limited bandwidth. So those are the first two principles. We also keep data usage minimal. We only collect what WhatsApp needs to run the service, and we think this helps keep our users safe. And then finally, we want the service to be private. We fundamentally believe in people having the ability to communicate privately, and we believe end-to-end encryption is the best way to keep our 2 billion users safe. As I'm sure you know, on WhatsApp, all of your personal calls and messages are secured by end-to-end encryption, which means that no one except the sender or the recipient can access them, not even WhatsApp. We think this is such an important tool for keeping everyone safe, not just journalists, not just activists, not just whistleblowers, everyone. We're increasingly living more and more of our lives digitally, and we saw this increase during the global pandemic. And encryption is such an essential tool to protect people's privacy, to keep them safe from hacking, from fraud, from identity theft, from other threats to privacy. And we've seen WhatsApp around those fundamental principles be an invaluable resource that people have used for securely accessing critical information about, say, the conflict in Ukraine, and for using the platform to help organize things like the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And we've seen the platform act as a valuable channel to privately and securely communicate during conflict situations around the world. Just before I move on to some of the features I wanted to discuss, I think it's worth just stopping for a moment to reflect that WhatsApp is a private messaging service. It's very, very different from public social media. And it's designed to help people keep in contact with their close personal contacts. It's not about growing or reaching an audience. We see it very much as facilitating those personal relationships. I'm going to move on then to some of the product updates I mentioned earlier. And the first set of product updates I'm going to talk about are things that have already been rolled out in the platform. And I thought these would be useful tools for people to hear about. Maybe you haven't tried them already and they might be relevant to some of your use of the platform. So over the last 12 months, we've built and launched a series of features that give users more options and control over how they message and what happens to their conversations. So the first of these features is something called View Once. And we launched this feature because we know that not everything people want to share should become part of the permanent record of messages on the phone. And so View Once is essentially a feature when you send a photo or a video, the recipient can see it once and then the message disappears. It's no longer available on the device. And we think that's helpful for quick reactions or sending sensitive bits of information like Wi-Fi passwords or location details or things like that. And as with all of the personal messages on WhatsApp, View Once media is again end-to-end encrypted. So WhatsApp can't see those messages. Only the person that you're sending it to will be able to see that. And once the message has been viewed, it will be marked as open to avoid any confusion of, it'll appear as a kind of opened message in the chat, right? So you can see that that's happening. So View Once, that's the first feature I thought it would be helpful to introduce. The second one is disappearing messages, which is the option for people to turn on disappearing messages either by default for all new chats or in particular chats, or indeed if you start a new group and you want all of the messages in that group to disappear after a period of time. We've also introduced the option to set the duration for how long those messages should live for in the chat. So there are options for 1 day, for 90 days, or for 7 days. So that's the second feature, and we think that also enhances privacy and gives people more control over how long their information stays around for the people they are sending things to. And then thirdly, we know that the security of personal conversations with people goes beyond the day-to-day the sort of day-to-day conversations on device. So what we've introduced is an optional layer of security to protect your backups. So this is for backups stored on Google Drive or iCloud, and we're now protecting all backups with end-to-end encryption. And we think no other messaging service operating at this global scale allows this level of security for people's messages. So neither, just like with chats on your phone, neither WhatsApp nor the service that you use will be able to read your backups or access the keys required to use it. So finally, one last feature before I move on to communities is the feature around two-factor authentication. So beyond the security of your messages and backups, we want more WhatsApp users around the world to protect themselves by remaining alert to the threats of people trying to access your account. So this is people trying to hack in, trying to impersonate organizations or individuals. And what we've introduced there is two-factor authentication. And this really simple steps that you can go into your WhatsApp account, turn on two-factor authentication, and have a PIN number to help prevent people hacking into your account. It's really easy to do. I did it last night. I realized when preparing for this event that I did not have two-factor authentication turned on. And you have the option to go in and do that and keep it on or turn it off if you don't like it. But we do highly recommend turning that feature on. I'm going to just pause now for 1 second because I am going to try and ping the tech support, the deck, to see if we can have that for the last few things I want to review, because this is all about this is going to be all about a new feature, and I think it would be really helpful for everybody to be able to see the feature rather than me talking about it in the abstract. So let me just see if I can sort this out. Just give me a moment here. I'm terribly sorry about this.
Yes, Helen, do you hear me?
I do.
Can you just leave the session for 1 second, then come back again?
I can.
Yeah, leave the sessions and keep Mona continue with talking and join us during in 1 second.
Okay. Should we move forward then, Brahim?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So thanks, Helen. We will be waiting you till you come back again, because Helen, she has like few slides that she would like to join to share them with us. For now, like we can start like warming up with you, Omar.
Do you have now share screen icon? Helen, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You have share screen feature down?
Yes.
Please press on it.
Okay.
Then go for share screen. منى ما عم نسمعك احنا.
منى ما في صوت عندك.
It works, Helen?
I'm afraid it doesn't.
The share screen is not working. I send you WhatsApp photo.
I can see the button and I am pressing it, but it is not letting me do it. Let me try one more thing and I'll see if I can get this to work.
If you want, just send it to me. I will share it from my side.
Ibrahim, I shared it with you.
Okay, great.
Great.
Okay, sorry for the confusion and for the technical errors, but like I hope in 30 seconds we can move forward in this session.
Mona, would you like me to keep going or would you like to pick up with Omar?
Yeah, if you can hear us, then Omar, would you, I was speaking and I think my mic was muted. Omar, would you like to go ahead and tell us more about the challenges that that journalists are facing while they are using WhatsApp? Till like Helen could be able to share her screen with us. عمر عم تسمعنا؟
اوكي منى، انا للاسف يعني مش عمالي بسمع كل هلا بسمعك. كنت
طب
اذا بتحب مش عمالي بسمع كل الوقت بشكل ممتاز. ما بعرف اذا انتم بتسمعوني.
احنا عم نسمعك كثير منيح. انا كنت عم بسالك اذا بتحب
تشارك
معنا.
اوكي.
يمكن في شوي ديلي عمر، بس احنا كنا عم نطلب منك تحكي لنا على التحديات اللي بواجهوها الصحفيين لما بيستعملوا منصة واتساب.
اوكي تمام. اللي كنت بقول انه انا مش كنت عم بسمعكم كل الوقت، فمش على شو كانت تحكي إلين، يعني ما كنت متبعها كل الوقت للأسف. ولكن على كل حال أنا مداخلتي يعني بعيدا عن الجوانب التقنية لواتساب وميزاته وكيفية استخدام المنصة، اللي أنا بدي أهميتها طبعا لكل المستخدمين الصحفيين. بعض الخاصة المتعلقة في العدد الحد مجموعات التراسل مثلا بين الناس اللي هو على ما أعتقد 256 شخص. هذا أحيانا بيضطرنا كصحفيين إنه يكون عندنا أكثر من مجموعة على الواتساب حتى نقدر نتواصل مع بعضنا فيها بنفس المضامين. يعني ساعدت وساهمت في إبقاء الصحفيين التواصل وبشكل سريع وسلس وسهل. وأعتقد إنه يعني بدي أشير لرقم واحد اللي أظهر في آخر استطلاع لرأي بين الشباب والطلاب الفلسطينيين، إنه واتساب هي اليوم المنصة رقم 2 بعد يوتيوب في حجم الاستخدام لإلها. وصلت لحد 94% نسبة استخدام واتساب، وهذه نسبة ممتازة جدا، وهي اللي بتفرض على واتساب يعني تحديات كبيرة إنه تكون هي دائما مستجيبة لمتطلبات وتطلعات الشباب والصحفيين تحديدا. وهذا طبعا يعني بعود لسهولة استخدام هذا التطبيق من قبل المستخدمين. ولكن المسألة الأساسية باعتقادي تتعلق بالحماية والأمن في استخدام هذا التطبيق، لأنه بالنسبة لنا كفلسطينيين وكصحفيين فلسطينيين اللي يعني دائما هاجسنا هو فعلا السرية في استخدام التطبيقات المختلفة في التواصل فيما بيننا. وفق ما بتعلن واتساب بأنه هناك في سرية مطلقة للمحادثات، وهي محادثة بين طرفين فقط ولا يحق لأي طرف آخر الاطلاع عليها. وإذا بدي أقرأ تماما إنه المستخدمين بمشاركة أهم اللحظات الشخصية عبر الواتساب، ولهذا السبب زودنا أحدث إصداراتنا من التطبيق بخاصية التشفير التام، وبفضل هذه الخاصية يتم تأمين رسائلك ومكالماتك حتى تتمكن أنت والطرف الآخر الذي تتواصل معه من قراءة الرسائل أو الاستماع إلى المكالمات، ولن شخص آخر الاطلاع على هذه الرسائل أو سماع المكالمات. هذا عمليا هو يعني أحد المحفزات اللي بتشجعنا كصحفيين على استخدام هذا التطبيق. ولكن الواقع وتجربتنا كصحفيين ما بتأكد هذا الحكي للأسف، وهي بتقول غير هيك. بتقول إنه في حدا بيخترق هذه المحادثات وهذه المكالمات بين الطرفين، سواء كانت بين شخصين محدودين أو بين شخص ومجموعة متلقين. وهذه الاختراقات يعني مش بس أنا بقول إنها مخترقة من قبل يعني بعض التطبيقات المحكمة مثل بيجاسوس أو يعني التطبيقات الأخرى الشبيهة، يبدو أن موضوع اختراقها هو أسهل من هيك. وبقول هذا الحكي من خلال تجربتنا كصحفيين في العام الماضي، تحديدا في شهر حزيران من العام الماضي، اللي وثقنا في نقابة الصحفيين اللي اشتغلنا عليها بالشراكة مع مركز حملي. تم في يوم واحد إغلاق حسابات واتساب ل 11 صحفي، وفي اليوم التالي تم إغلاق 6 حسابات ل6 صحفيين آخرين. وفي شهر واحد من هذا العام 2022 في 3 يناير تحديدا أغلق حساب آخر للصحفيين. هذا طبعا يعني أولا هو من جهة واحد من الانتهاكات اللي بتمارسها منصة واتساب بحق الصحفيين الفلسطينيين والمستخدمين عموما، ولكن أنا بركز على الصحفيين هون. وأعتقد أنه ما ورد في تقرير مركز حملي عن انتهاكات منصات التواصل لسنة 2021 اللي بلغت 1033 انتهاك كان من بينها 20 انتهاك من قبل منصة واتساب، ويبدو لي أنه هذه الانتهاكات هي بازدياد، لأنه كمان وفق إحصائية صدى السوشيال فإنه في هناك 18 انتهاك من قبل واتساب تمثلت في إغلاق حسابات أو حذف محتوى، هذا خلال فقط الشهور الأربعة الأولى من هذا العام. السؤال الأساسي هون إنه يعني إغلاق الحسابات أو التدخل في المحتوى على واتساب كيف بيتم؟ إذا كنا بنحكي عن سرية تامة لهذه الحسابات، إذن كيف تعرف واتساب أو غيرها شو هو محتوى هذه المحادثات حتى إنه بيتم إغلاق هذه الحسابات أو معاقبة صاحب الحساب حتى لو فترة محددة؟ أنا باعتقادي إنه هناك يعني أحد احتمالين للإجابة على هذا السؤال، إما إنه واتساب هي نفسها بتراقب هذا المحتوى، تعلنوا مع سياسة الخصوصية اللي كل واحد لما بدخل وبفتح الحساب بشوف هذه السياسي ضيل حتى لو كانت هذه المراقبة ما بتتم بشكل مباشر وبتتم عن طريق رتمات محددة، فهذا أيضا هو نوع من التضليل. والاحتمال الثاني أنه هي بتسمح لطرف ثالث آخر أو بتغض النظر عن رقابة طرف ثالث آخر، وباعتقادي هذا هو الاحتمال المرجح. وفي مثل حالتنا الفلسطينية فإن الطرف الآخر بالتأكيد هو أجهزة الأمن الإسرائيلية اللي هي يعني ضليعة ومختصة في مراقبة المضامين والمحتوى الفلسطيني على كل وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي ومن ضمنها واتساب. وباعتقادي انه التجربه يعني على المنصات المفتوحه مثل فيسبوك او تويتر او غيرها بتاكد بانه اجهزه الامن الاسرائيليه هي اللي بتقوم بمتابعه هذا المحتوى وبتطلب من شركات التواصل ومنصات التواصل المختلفه معاقبه الفلسطينيين سواء من خلال حذف المحتوى او اغلاق الصفحات. وللاسف
I think we lost Omar again. So Helen, I think we can go back to your side, and if Brahim can help us to share your slides, please go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I'm very happy to respond to the questions raised.
Maybe when he come back, you can answer his question, but now you can go forward with your presentation.
Okay, I will happily do that. I think I'm on slide 8. If we can just skip through some of those, that would be great. Thank you. So just in the second half of the presentation then, I thought I might spend a few minutes outlining our vision for communities, and actually it speaks to some of the features that Omar raised at the beginning in respect of group sizes and how WhatsApp is highly used and people want to organize. So if we could just go forward one more slide, please. Since WhatsApp launched, we've been focused on how we can help people have the next best thing to an in-person conversation when they want to talk to an individual or to groups of friends or family. And so in addition to in-person conversations and one-to-one chats, we noticed, especially over the pandemic period, that people were using WhatsApp increasingly to connect and to form these online communities. And oftentimes those mirrored real-life communities. So for example, the communities that you'd have in schools or with sports clubs and with campaigning organizations. And we saw these groups come together online and use WhatsApp. And these conversations became increasingly important during the pandemic, but also very important for organization. And given the feedback we received from users, we decided that there was more that we could do to make it easy for people to manage those sorts of groups. So what we've tried to do with this feature is introduce new ways for people to organize those groups. And what Communities is doing at its heart is creating an umbrella organization to link related groups. And a school is one example of this, but I'll go into more detail later and use an NGO example. But you know, in a school you have different classes, you might have a football club, you might have a orchestra, but actually having all of those groups linked together under one community gives the ability for admins to send out one message that goes to everyone in the community. It also gives the ability for people who are members of one group to see the other groups that might be relevant to them, but just in with that close community. If we can move forward one slide, please. That's great. So, and related to this feature, we've also made a number of improvements to how groups work on WhatsApp, whether or not they're part of a community. And some of these features have actually been rolled out already on the product. So the first feature is reactions. So you can now hold down a message and do an emoji reaction, so a thumbs up or a thank you. And we think that will cut down on some of the back and forth messaging. So people were telling us that in these big groups with lots of people, people in them, there were lots of reaction messages being sent, and actually being able to react to a message cuts down on some of the pings when you don't.
That's a nice feature.
Full message, great. What's what people have reacted very positively so far. It just came to globally, I think, earlier this week. So that's one of the things that we've done. We're also introducing admin delete. So we noticed that admins sometimes were noticing not necessarily bad behavior, but just the kind of interactions that they didn't want to have in their group. So we're enabling admins, giving them the power to delete messages if they want to in the groups that they manage. We're introducing larger group sizes, so up to 5-12 members. We're also allowing people to share bigger files and introducing voice calls for up to 32 people. We're rolling out these features, as I said, in the coming weeks, so you should be able to start trying to use them. But the feedback we've received so far has been very positive. Next slide, please. But bringing it back to, next slide, please. Bringing it back to communities. This is just a visual demonstration of how the product will work. So in this example, this would be the page for an NGO community, and you can see all the linked groups underneath. So the feature essentially has an announcement space where community admins can share relevant updates for all of the groups and all of the members. And then this sort of directory where people that are already part of the community can see other groups that are also part of the community in a way that they can join the groups relevant to them. Next slide, please. But in building these new features, we've done so with privacy, safety, and security in the front of our minds. So the first and most critical thing that we've done is create new tools and resources for community admins to manage their communities. Second, we've given greater user control, so users can control their experiences and self-remediate if they encounter abuse. They're very similar to some of the things that we have in place today. Thirdly, we're putting in place limits on size and discoverability and adding new limits on forwarding. It's really important to us that even though we're facilitating different ways of organizing communities on WhatsApp, it's still a place for private communication. And I think the school example brings that out quite well. It might be a bigger community, but it's also really important that you don't want information about a school, or indeed, if you're organizing for activism, you don't want that information to be public. So it's still really important that this information is private. And again, it's end-to-end encrypted. And then lastly, we're empowering both admins and users to take access against abuse within the group. So yes, there are new controls for admins, but there are also new controls for users so that they can report problems that they see in the communities that they're part of. Next slide, please. So, I mean, in summary, that's the community's feature. It's going to be an easy way to bring groups together under one umbrella in the community home. It's going to create this directory of linked groups so that people within the community can see and enjoy them. And it's going to create this announcement channel where if you're an admin of the community, you're able to communicate with all of the group members at one time. But at its core, WhatsApp still remains about enabling people to connect privately, and our standard features will remain offering a simple, secure, reliable way to message people that you have connections with, all protected by end-to-end encryption. And Omar, I see you are back now, and be very happy to have the discussion about the questions you raised in your introduction.
Yeah, let me jump in before you answer the questions, هيلين. عمر، هل أنت خلصت كل الملاحظات؟ يعني نعطي هيلين المجال إنها ترد على الأسئلة، أو لسه بتحب تحكي قبل ما هي تبدأ تجاوب على الأسئلة؟ عمر أنت ميوت، بس إذا بتفتح المايك من عندك ونقدر نسمعك.
اوكي، بعد عندي بس يعني احاول اختم هيك بشكل سريع دقيقتين ثلاث. كنت بقول انه احنا بنرجح بانه هذه المراقبه تمت عبر الامن. بهذيك الفتره شهدنا انتهاكات واسعه بحق المحتوى الفلسطيني، وكان كله من خلال اجهزه الامن الاسرائيليه اللي للاسف كانت شركه ميتا اللي هي مالكه للواتساب ايضا تستجيب لها حتى بدون التدقيق او بدون ما يعني الاخذ طبيعه عمل الصحفيين. الكلمات مثلا هي محظوره يعني بشكل، لما بقول شهيد او لما بقول حركه حماس او مقاومه او كل الكلمات هاي اللي احنا نضطر نستخدمها كثير. لو اذا انا انتقد حركه حماس ولا بدي انتقد المقاومه ولا بدي انتقد اي شيء ما بقدر، لانه مجرد ذكر هذه الكلمه يعني كانت عنه واتساب في الشهر الماضي اعتقد قبل حوالي 3 أو 4 أسابيع بانه هي راح تسمح او سمحت عمليا للنشطاء الاوكرانيين ببث محتوى عنيف بما في ذلك محتويات عنيفه. هذا بأكد انه شركه يعني كانت جزء من هذا العالم اللي بكيل بمكيالين للأسف تجاه كل القضايا الفلسطينية، وما راعت بنفس المقدار الخصوصية الفلسطينية والوضع الفلسطيني اللي هو شبيه يعني بل ربما يكون يعني بشكل مختلف بالنسبة، لكن من حقنا كفلسطينيين وشعب واقع تحت الاحتلال انه يكون عندنا يعني مثل هذا الحق في نقل مثل هذه المشاهد. بالاجمال شكرا. احنا بنشوف كصحفيين وبالمصطلح احنا حارس بوابه جديد. اكمل ولا خلص؟
اذا بتحب تختم ب30 ثانيه عشان نروح للاسئله بكون كثير منيح. تفضل.
اكمل منى؟
ما اذا بتحب تختم ب30 ثانيه عمر وبعدين بنروح للاسئله. تفضل. عمر عم تسمعني؟
Can I come back in now, because I feel like we've moved on from the original question and I think it would be helpful to be able to have a discussion.
اوكي، بدنا نبدا نجاوب الاسئله لانه احنا ضايل معنا اقل من 25 دقيقه، فبدي اعطي هيلين مجال. هيلين, I'll give you 5 minutes to answer Omar's questions before we go forward with the other questions, because we have like a couple of questions that we should talk about, and basically we should discuss like the original topic, which is like the challenges while we are utilizing the platform for organizing and mobilizing. So 5 minutes to answer Omar's questions. Please go ahead.
Of course, and thank you, Omar. I appreciate the sort of frankness of the concerns that you've raised, but I have to reiterate that we do not have any access to messages on WhatsApp. And let me talk through some of the, because I know there is sort of some confusion, so let me talk through what we are and what we aren't, and what we do and what we don't do. So all you need is a phone number to use WhatsApp. And as I said, all of our messages are end-to-end encrypted. WhatsApp doesn't see them, Meta does not see them. We do not, and this means we do not know who our users are and what they were saying. We don't know who a journalist is, and we don't know who a journalist isn't. Journalists do incredibly important work, and we want to enable that work. And it's one of the reasons why we defend end-to-end encryption so robustly. However, we do have responsibilities both under our own terms of service, but also under the US law to prevent the service from being misused. And when we do receive evidence of of groups, say, representing designated terrorist organizations, or groups saying things that through like the limited info that we have available, we do take action. And sometimes journalists can be part of groups where we've needed to take action and inadvertently get caught out as part of that enforcement action. And I can't speak to any one particular case, but I think that's what's happened in these circumstances. If we become aware that this has happened, that a journalist has been caught up in some of that inadvertent action, we work quickly to reinstate the journalists involved. Anyone can appeal a ban via support@whatsapp.com, and we have direct lines of communication to Al Jazeera and Access Now to enable us to rectify those situations whenever we need to. So that's my that's, I think, the real key facts that I'd want everyone to take away today. And in terms of some of the words and the things that Omar was talking about in respect of monitoring, we don't have access to people's messages. So the kind of options that he was talking about for why this happens are simply not correct.
Okay, Helen, I do understand, and we know that from your community standards that you have like the end-to-end encryption and the user's messages, and we do understand that. But how can you explain the shot of the like groups basically between those journalists during May uprising?
So I can't speak to any one particular circumstance on this call, but we as I say, we don't know who is a journalist. We cannot read chats. We take action based on limited information, and if we do get any evidence that a group that we have isn't complying with US law, we do have to take action and take down groups. But if journalists get caught up inadvertently, we do have a process where they can appeal those bans, and we do reinstate journalists as quickly as possible. But none of this is based on any ability to read any messages that are on the service.
Okay, so Helen, if we just go back again one more time to the main like goal for our workshop, when we are talking about WhatsApp for organizing and mobilizing, can you like tell us or share with us the do's and don'ts or the best practices for organizers and for journalists on how they can utilize this platform to organize themselves also with their communities? Omar mentioned something, and we all know that, which is the limited numbers of participants in the group, which is I think 265 or something like that. I'm not sure about the exact number, but it's 200 something. So yeah, is WhatsApp like thinking about increasing that, and what do you think about that?
So on that point, we have just increased the number of people that you can have in a group to 510. So that is something that we've been thinking about. We do still see the platform as a tool for connecting people that you know and trust, but we've very much heard loud and clear that having private conversations in groups is something that people want to see. So that is a feature that has been rolled out as part of the community's feature. In respect of sort of do's and don'ts, I mean, I think it's about using the platform to communicate with people that you know and trust, and making sure that there is a thoughtfulness about the messages that are being put out. So not spamming groups, not forwarding things without sort of thinking about them, and keeping your communications relevant to the group that you're communicating with.
I also believe that WhatsApp previously took like strict measures to prevent misinformation and disinformation on your platform. Can you share with us what are those restrictions that you planned and you already now had? And I have one more question as a follow-up on a point that you mentioned. You mentioned that the disappearing messages is now enabled for 1 day, but last time I've tried to enable it, it was for 7 days. When did you enable the 1 day disappearing message feature?
Okay, so the first question on misinformation and disinformation. In respect of WhatsApp, obviously Facebook and WhatsApp are very separate products. So I can speak only I can speak only about WhatsApp. So WhatsApp can't see messages on the platform. So we're not in the business of weighing in about whether the information that someone is sharing is accurate or not. What we do on the platform is try and cut down the virality of messages so that the spread of we don't want our platform to be used to spread misinformation and disinformation. And what we've done on that front is think very carefully about how easy it is or how difficult it is to forward messages. And so what we've introduced are a couple of features. So one is limiting the number of groups or people that you can forward messages to, and that will increase with communities so that you can't have people like contributing to virality of potentially misleading information. And the second feature is flagging when something has been highly forwarded so that people are aware that the person who sent it to you wasn't its source. So that's a sort of very high level overview of some of the thinking that WhatsApp does around misinformation and disinformation, and that reflects the private nature of the platform and the fact that we're not moderating the content in the same way that colleagues at Facebook do, and I can't speak to that platform. In respect to the disappearing messages, that is a relatively new feature, Mona, so I'll have to get back to you on exactly the date that was rolled out. But my understanding is that's been rolled out extremely recently.
No, that's extremely helpful. I mean, congrats on this feature because it's really helpful. Like last time when we started to enable it, and it was like just 1 week, we thought that it's not really a good thing, and at that time, we thought about changing using WhatsApp to other platform just because your disappearing messages is 1 week. And at that time, we have a crackdown in Palestine from the authority. And basically, when people are on the ground, they want to just to protect themselves. I have a question out of curiosity. Last year, at the end of last year, when the 6 Black hours happened and all the world lost the connection of all Meta's platforms. Basically, WhatsApp was one of them. Many people started using other messaging apps. Do you feel that after those 6 hours, people reduce their using to WhatsApp, or they came back after those 6 hours were over?
That is a very good question, Mona, and I have to say I do not have the figures to hand on the impact of that. Obviously, we worked very quickly to restore the service, and it was very unfortunate and very inconvenient for everyone around the world. And that's, you know, I don't have those figures to hand. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so if we are speaking about the communities and building communities, in the session before this, we hosted Sarah Ashmawi from Meta, and she was sharing with us like the best practices to build our communities on Facebook on Facebook platform. Do you have like any tips for people who wanna build a community, not only just building a group and putting people there and not spam them, like a fruitful community building using WhatsApp?
So I think the way that we're trying to build the community's product is really trying to bring to the platform the way those things would happen naturally in real life settings. So I think it's about being really thoughtful about bringing together, like how would you organize this offline, and can you bring that online and use the platform as a way to have the conversations in the digital space that you might be trying to do if you could be physically present with those people. So some of the things in terms of sort of like thinking quite carefully about what the different group objectives are, making sure that people know, you know, what the purposes of the different groups are and how they link together into the broader community, and making sure that people want to be a part of those groups. Like I think in respect of some of the other platforms where maybe you are trying to broadcast out messages, trying to build an audience, this is about having the private conversations with people and really making them meaningful for all of the people that you've added. So I think it's about using the platform in the way that lots of people do, which is as a place for sort of private conversations and bringing people together when they need to have those private conversations.
Oh, I was muted. I don't know why, but why people should choose WhatsApp as a communication app, as a messaging app, while they should not use other messaging apps?
I think WhatsApp has a really clear and is a really clear offer in terms of being simple, reliable, and private. I think that there's an enormous amount of thought that goes into the product in terms of keeping people safe on the platform, but also allowing private space, stepping back, allowing that the app to be used for your most private and sensitive conversations. And I think with some of the new features that we're rolling out, it will hopefully give people the tools to create really special places where they can do organizing work that they need to do and really live their lives on the platform in the way that we weren't able to do over the last few years in the pandemic. I think you might be on mute again, Mona, sorry.
I don't know why. I'm not sure if Ibrahim is muting me, but I don't know why this is happening. So how do you feel like using stories on WhatsApp platform is helping people in building communities?
When you say stories, can you clarify?
Do you mean you have a feature? Yeah, you have a feature where people can share stories as they are sharing that on Instagram and other platforms. Do you think that this could support their community building, or it's just a feature to be there?
Well, I mean, I think people use that feature in a whole host of different ways, and it's really interesting. I'm relatively new to the company, and it's really interesting to hear about all the different ways some of these features are used. I mean, I'd be interested to hear from people here how they like to use the status feature.
I'm not sure if people are putting questions in the chat box, because I'm just looking there and I don't think we have questions, but we have one comment there. You share users' information with Facebook. You know who your users are, he said. How can you respond to that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, definitely. So Anwar said, you share users' information with Facebook. You know who your users are, because you mentioned like just a few minutes ago when Omar was speaking about the journalist identities, you said like you don't know that because you have the end-to-end encryption. So someone said that you are sharing Facebook, you are sharing the user's information with Facebook. I think this is related to the privacy update that you've announced last year when you were thinking to merge people's data among the 3 different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, if I'm not mistaken. How can you apply that?
The privacy policy update was I think misunderstood in lots of ways, and really unfortunately so. There is confusion about what we do as a company. Meta is our parent company, and they do help us to provide infrastructure to provide the WhatsApp service around the world. But just as we can't read your messages, neither can Meta. There are no sort of message sharing between WhatsApp and Meta. And that was the point that I was making earlier. Also, we don't share contact lists with Meta. We collect limited categories of data on the platform. And so, WhatsApp is not collecting lots of information about users and sharing it with Meta, because as I said, we can't see people's messages, and we don't share contact lists with Meta. Just on the privacy privacy policy update, which you mentioned, that did not change any of the things I've just said. It did not change the way that we share data with Meta.
Wonderful. We still have 4 minutes, and I have 2 questions. The first question is, I'm sorry, I have lots of questions out of curiosity. So the first one is, last year during May uprising, we've seen Israeli groups, they were organizing and mobilizing themselves using Meta, and this was leading to a real world harm. We were escalating that, and you, thankfully, you were responsive. You, when we were providing you with a screenshot, you were positively responding with our escalations. So my question to you, how do you work to make sure that such kind of conversations is not leading to a real world harm, for occupied people or for any communities around the world?
When you say Meta, are you talking about Facebook? Because I can't really I'm not part of Facebook.
No,
I can't.
I'm talking about Instagram. Last year, they were using Instagram to organize and mobilize themselves to incite violence against Palestinians on the mixed cities.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm here to talk about WhatsApp. I don't really feel comfortable talking about the situation with Instagram, so I'll have to leave that.
It is about WhatsApp. Sorry if I said Instagram. It is about.
Oh yeah,
WhatsApp.
you did.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Yeah, so basically groups were using WhatsApp to organize and mobilize themselves to incite violence against Palestinians, and this was leading for a real world harm.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I think this comes back to the point that these groups were obviously reported and action was taken on the basis of imminent real world harm, and so that was in line with our terms of service and the policies that I mentioned earlier in respect of when we decide when we have evidence from the limited amount of information that we get in situations like this, action is taken, and clearly in this situation it was.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. Actually, you were really helpful at that time and you responded positively to our escalations. That's what I was saying. Sorry if I
no, that's absolutely
Instagram, but it was WhatsApp. So yeah, thanks for that.
No, that's what I mean. At WhatsApp, we rely on reports, and if we have evidence, then we take action.
Yeah, definitely. Last question, but not least. This is like a long conversation, but I feel we should came to an end. My last question is: some governments now around the world are pushing or putting pressure on social media companies, especially messaging apps, to stop the end-to-end encryption. By any chance, did you hear about that, and what do you think about that?
I mean, I'm really pleased that you brought this up, actually, because I think there are huge threats to end-to-end encryption, and not just encryption itself, but also other risks to privacy, like client-side scanning, which we think breaks the promise of end-to-end encryption. And I think for everyone who cares about privacy and security, and particularly around messaging, we need to be really vocal about the importance of encryption and how it works to keep people safe. We are seeing these threats all around the world, and particularly in the EMEA region. So it's it is a common thread, as you recognise, and I'd say people that care about privacy should be vocal in support of encryption.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely support that, and we should be much more sharp when it comes to people's right to privacy. It's enough how tech surveillance companies are trying to utilize platforms and WhatsApp. Just to remind people who are just hearing us now, WhatsApp previously they sued NSO, if I'm not mistaken, for utilizing their platform for spying on people or for surveilling people. So we are unfortunately, our time is over, and our technical support are reminding me that we should finish this call. Helen, would you like to say your last word for our audience?
Just like to thank everyone for coming today. Apologies for the technical details, and just to pick up on your last point, Mona, that we'll continue to defend end-to-end encryption. And I hope today was helpful in respect of how to organize your community, your activism on WhatsApp, and look forward to hearing views about some of the new features I discussed today.
Thanks a lot. And we definitely would love to share with you as soon as we are using them. And we started already from now on the reaction features. So yeah, keep the good work, and see you soon. Thanks for our audience. We are now moving to the next session. So up to you, Yasmin, so you can introduce our new speakers and session. Thank you.